Hello, everyone! We've been exploring the World Series of Poker main event with Adrian Mateos for 3 full days now, but the finish line is still a long way off because the world's greatest tournament is also the world's longest tournament. There are still over 1,500 players in the running at the Horseshoe Casino, out of a total of 10,000 participants. And for the moment, none of these players have even had a whiff of cash. The bubble hasn't burst yet. That crucial moment is coming very soon, and our Spanish hero, who hasn't stopped performing wonders since the tournament kicked off, is in a very good position to attack even harder as we get close to the money, with a stack of 1 million that puts him in 84th position. Come on, Adrian, it's time to get the engine roaring.
Ready for day 4. After having done my daily routine of going to the gym to work out a bit, I'm ready for this big day. Today is not an ordinary day, it's a special day. It's not every day that we play day 4 of the main event, so with a lot of hope, let's head to the casino.
Como hay un poco de atasco ahora, se nos complica.
Nada, ya vamos bien, joder. No tenemos el truco ese. Son 8 minutos, son 4. ¿Estás en el Horseshoe?
El Horseshoe, sí. ¿Cuántas veces has llegado tarde a un torneo?
¿Tarde? Nunca creo.
Nunca diría.
¿Tú? Tú sí.
Bueno, de alguna. Alguna cena que se complica.
No, me he perdido muy poca mano, me he perdido yo por llegar tarde. Hago una vez que una urgencia en el baño, corriendo y tal, pero muy pocas.
¿Nunca han tardado un poco más en el postre?
No, porque voy con el ansias y a veces ni he comido. Lo primero es atizar.
¿Has visto la mesa?
Por encima. Tengo un argentino que me cubre y que está a mi derecha, así que veremos. Y el resto, la verdad que están bastante cortos. Hay 2 con 400, uno con 400, este con 1 millón y el resto cortos, así que para la burbuja bien.
Bueno,
La verdad. Veremos. No conozco a casi nadie. Ahora cuando esté en la mesa, no me da tiempo que... Cuando esté en la mesa empezaré a buscarles el GTMob y googlearles a ver qué tal juegan. Sobre todo a ver qué nivel están acostumbrados a jugar. Porque no es lo mismo, la burbuja de 15K les puede quemar mucho. Y es bueno saber a qué están acostumbrados.
venga.
Vaya calor, chaval.
Calor, inhumano, ¿eh?
Ten cuidado en el coche.
Espectacular.
Bueno, suerte. Dale, suerte.
Suerte, vale. Igualmente, Lolito.
¿Cuál estás tú?
Naranja 545.
¿Cuál?
Naranja 545.
Estoy en red, esto es red.
Está en la...
Naranja es al fondo.
No sé qué.
506. Estoy ahí donde la cámara.
Suerte, Mitch.
Hello.
I arrived to the table, ready for a long and important day.
How are you?
Hello, good.
Today is a special day in the main event because it's the day we get into the money.
Hello, Owen.
I thought it was going to be on day 3, but in the end, it's going to be on the first few levels of day 4. And the table I get is pretty important because it's going to decide whether I'll be able to play a lot of hands or less.
want everyone to be ready to go, and I want everyone to be excited. And hitting the money and playing in the money at the World Series of Poker is probably one of the most fun things that we get to do every single year. But as Charlie said, it does get a little bit crazy, gets a little bit hectic, particularly when we're paying 1,517 people, right? Let's keep the game going at a good pace. Let's keep the spirit of the competition alive. Let's have a great WSOP main event. Now, with that said, who's ready to play the main event and make some money? Okay, all right, so let's get down to action. I'm done talking. Good luck to everybody. 12 out of the money. Dealers, please shuffle up and deal.
We are 12 players away from getting into the money. We are especially going to see if the players on my left are not 3-betting me much, are not giving me trouble, and if I can open wide. The problem at the moment is that the players slept well. They know there are only a few players left before we make the money, and they're going to start playing a lot slower, tanking every hand at virtually every table, and I'm going to have to try to protect myself. We'll see which pace they're playing at my table, and if we have to start calling the clock.
Clock. Clock. On the floor, please. Bro! Bro! 506!
In the end here, there's a conflict of interest where the short stack's best interest is to play as few hands as possible.
Where we at? Where we at?
And in my case, the deep stack's best interest is to play as many hands as possible, through which we could make a lot of money on average in this spot. The player on the button opens. My hand can either 3-bet or call, but I think he wouldn't open this wide in this spot on the button, so I'd rather call. Let's see if I get a good flop.
Check. Check. Check.
I have no information about the player on the button. He bets small as standard size in this spot. I'm going to call. The turn completes the flush and I don't have any club, which is not ideal, but check is good. Good river for my hand. I have few bluffs that don't consist of clubs. And here I'm going to have two sizings, a big one and a small one. I think this hand works well with a small bet. I want to get paid by an ace high or a pair lower than mine. He calls me, I have pocket sevens, and he has trips. Bad start, but hey, I didn't lose much. He decided not to raise me on the river, nor to bet on the turn. Therefore, I didn't lose that much. Once again, the player in seat 3 is tanking. It's a bit of a delicate situation because it's awkward for him and for me to be kind of the bad guy, but...
Clock. 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 Again, seat 3.
Got 30 seconds.
It's annoying, I understand his point of view, but in the end, as I said earlier, each hand played is money I could win. This is a competition, and everyone has to look out for their own interests. The Argentinian player with the PCA cap has a big stack. He is a professional, used to playing at high stakes. He's definitely the toughest opponent at this table. The good thing is that I've got position on him, and during the bubble, it's important. King Queen, I'm going to open.
16,000.
Here he goes again, tanking this player. According to the rules, it's forbidden to do it consistently.
Block.
Right.
You three. All right.
Always same player, tanking
Same
is...
players. Yeah, it's 25.
To try to make him do it as little as possible is part of my job today. So even if it's a bit conflictual, I think it's what I have to do if I want to keep winning chips in this main event.
I gotta keep coming back.
And King Queen
I gotta keep coming back
against the player on the cutoff.
Go down so you have like 5, okay? The second time I gotta come here, second time there, so you're at 20 next time, okay?
20.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a flop I'm going to check quite often. His range is quite a bit stronger than mine. I'm opening wide in this spot, and his calling range is stronger than my opening range. I have to be careful. This turn gives me a good draw and a lot of outs. Perfect cards for very strong hands, the ace and the 9. Even the king and the queen are good. Some clubs could be bluffed on.
77.
And I go for a very big bet. I go for the overbet. Here for value, I only want to bet the jack or better. And I want to be polarized. Also, it's a spot where I'm going to have a very wide range and I'm going to have a lot of bluffs. I think I have to use very big bet sizings. He gives up, which is good news for me. When we're playing wide ranges, we have to try to put in a lot of chips and a lot of pressure on our opponents. Otherwise, it becomes very easy to play against you. I keep on opening. I'm hoping most of my opponents, especially the short stacks, play very tight.
I saw the plan.
I'm just here and say somebody fell apart.
The floor told him he could take 20 seconds per hand. And therefore, he looks at the clock, wait 20 seconds and fold, which is pretty good for me. We're definitely playing faster than the other tables since he's the only player tanking. Tanking in such an obvious way, at least. I pot against 2 other players, the button and the big blind. The big blind has a stack similar to mine. The flop is good for my hand. I'm gonna have to c-bet sometimes and check other times. Pre-flop I'm opening from early position, but my early position range is a bit wider than usual because of where we're at in the tournament. And the call from the button is a bit stronger. Still 20% works well here. It's a dry board with no draws. The sizings I have to go for are rather small when I decide to bet. On this turn, checking and betting are both pretty interesting options.
Yeah, he's on 20 now.
This is going to depend on how many bluffs I expect from my opponent against a check. Considering the situation in the tournament, I think there aren't many. And I think my hand will make more money by betting for value. Once again, a small sizing. There are still not a lot of draws. And I don't think I need to make it bigger. River 3, it makes me split the pot against other aces. I only lose against pocket 3s and ace 5. I think the check doesn't induce a lot of bluffs, and also having the 10 of clubs, which is one of the cards he can bluff if he has 10x of clubs. I think my hand is better to bet. The problem is that I don't have a lot of bluffs that would want to do this on 3 streets against 3 players, and I have to go for a small sizing. In the end, I want him to call me with pairs and obviously not an ace, and if I make it a big sizing, I don't think this player is going to call me. When he raises me, it's very likely we're splitting.
Call.
I have to call to split most of the time.
Stop.
Sure enough, we split. It was a good river for me that allowed me at least to split the pot and to not lose it. And we keep going.
All players, I need you to remain in your seats. At this time, dealers, complete the hand that you're on, hold up, stand up. Okay, let's get everyone's attention, please. So everything went exactly like we had hoped. That wasn't too bad. We played for a little while. There are now 1,520 players remaining. We are 3 players away from the money, okay? So we're going to start our hand-for-hand process, and Charlie's going to walk you through that. I just want to remind everyone, there's a lot of people around, as I did before, and once we get started, it's going to be a little bit crazy. For those that have all-in calls, Charlie's going to give you instructions to not turn those hands over until all the all-in calls are finished at each table. Then we'll turn the hands up and do the reveals. So no reveals until all the all-in calls are done and set and ready. Once that process takes place and all the other hands are complete, I will come around. We're going to announce those hands for everyone in here so we can hear, we can sweat, and we can get ourselves into the money here very orderly, very, very easily. Okay? So that's all I have. So one last big, deep breath from everyone. And now I'm going to turn it over to the crazy man himself, Mr. Charlie Cerisi, to get you through the 50,000th bubble in the last 20 years.
So at this time, we're going to deal one hand and one hand only. Then we're going to stop. Dealers are going to need you guys to stand up. Players, please remain in your seats so we can walk around and find how many hands are processed so we can make sure that we get through this in a timely fashion. All right, dealers, deal one hand and hold up.
There are only 3 players left before we get into the money. It's hand for hand, one of the most boring moments of the tournament, especially in the main event with that many tables. So in between hands, you have to wait a while. But it's the only way to do it without making mistakes. It's very tough to manage a bubble of 1,500 players. A player in middle position opens. It's the other big stack at the table. I think he's opening with a wide range. I got him slightly covered, and I think my hand is ideal to start putting pressure with a 3-bet. He's thinking about what to do. And he calls me. It's going to be a pretty big pot on the bubble against the only player who pretty much has the same stack as me. A flop that favors my range. I think I have to c-bet very often. It's a bit of a weird spot because it's not a standard 3-bet pot. My 3-bet range is probably a bit wider than usual, and his calling range is going to be much tighter than normally, or at least similar. Still, on this flop, I have to keep betting with my hand. Small bet. Once again, a flop where I'm going to want to bet with most of my range. There are no draws, so we prioritize usually the small bets. He's thinking. I'm not expecting a lot of raises here. The majority of his range is going to either call or fold. Nine. And this is where I have to decide whether to continue my bluff or not. My hand. It's neither the best nor the worst to continue betting. I block a few combos of King 10 suited and a few Ace King that he could have in his range. And here I need to be polarized in the end for value. I would only bet hands that are better than a king, surely hands. At the minimum, King Queen, King Jack, or better. And I have plenty of potential bluffs. As in the previous hand, the theory is similar. I need to either bet very big or check the vast majority of my range. If I have a hand like Ace King, Ace Ace, or 9-9, or King 9 suited, I have even Ace 3 suited. I have a very clear value and a hand that's going to want to play for all my stack. And if I have bluff, which in this case I'm going to have more frequently than usually, I also have to use a big sizing. I go for a pot size bet. So that if my opponent calls me, there is more or less an SPR out of 1 on the river. That means that if he calls, he will have the same amount remaining in his stack behind, the same amount than the size of the pot. The pot will be equal to the remaining stack. And if he calls, I will make my decision on the river, on whether to continue my bluff or not. Let's try to analyze whether he's comfortable or not. He decides to fold, which is very good news for me. A very important pot, which also puts me with a dominant stack over the other big stack at the table.
Okay, we got an all-in call over here. Let's take a look at the hands. We've got a hold before the flop, all-in call here. Yep, let's take a look. Come on. We got Ace of Clubs, King of Hearts versus Pocket Kings. Turn card was a check. We're in the lead, but ace could chop it, and of course there is one ace king as well. Let's take a look at the river, which is not going to help you. All right, river with a 10. Ace high straight is the best hand. We have one elimination, ladies and gentlemen. One elimination. All right, dealers, at this time, deal one more hand. We go into the money. If two players or multiple players go out on the same table, it will go by chip count. So please make sure that you're aware of who's in the lead and who isn't. When these players go out, if there are multiple bust outs on a single table, obviously more than one table, we will handle that in terms of a photo finish. Okay, Charlie, take them away.
All right, dealers, event number 87. Welcome back.
Here we go, it's the bubble. The players are playing very tight. Those on my left are short stacked. There aren't many players left before we make the money. I think the king as a blocker is enough.
Once again, we have an all in the call. We are holding the action. All right, we have 3 of clubs, jack of clubs, 10 of clubs, 6 of diamonds. Let's take a look at the hands. We've got 5 of spades, and we have 10 tray of hearts for 10s and trays for the all-in player. All right, let's take a look at the river card here, and let's give him a double line. 4 diamonds, 10s and trays. That's it. No eliminations that hand. Players back to your seats.
No elimination, and the bubble continues, which is bad news for most of the players, but good news for me. That the bubble continues when you have such a big stack is very profitable.
All right, guys. Dealers, take your seats. Players, take your seats. We will be continuing on. All right, dealers, shuffle up the deal. Next hand. Still 2 away. Still 2 away.
There are 2 players remaining before we make the money.
$16.
An obvious open, and more so in this situation. Moment of patience. 10 to 15 minutes are going by between hands until a player busts.
The laces hold up here. 3 of spades, jack of diamonds, deuce of spades, 2 aces are good. Let's see the turn card. Queen of spades on the turn. All right, 2 aces are still good. Let's see the river cards. River card with the deuce, aces and deuces. We have an elimination. Your seats. All right, players, return your seats. We're getting closer. We're 1 away. All right, dealers, shuffle up a deal. 1 hand.
Another player was eliminated, 1 left until we reach the money. The next one eliminated is going to be the bubble boy of the tournament, and the rest of the room is going to be very happy.
All right, we got an all-in call over here between seat 6 and seat 9. And seat 9 is at risk. Let's get in position here. We're going to hold up for a second. Oh, okay, we're looking at the hands. The hands on. Let's turn the hands up.
Good, good. You?
All right, we got pocket faces.
You play paddle yesterday?
Huh?
You play paddle or no?
Yeah, I played this morning. Yeah.
How is your knee?
It was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can go maybe tomorrow or Friday, but it was okay. It was not too much pain. So I was happy.
Did you win?
No, fuck. We played. Well, it was like one set all. Gus was like, we woke up. We played at 8 a.m. So Gus was like totally tired, and we were like.
Let's take a look at the track.
Who do you play against?
We played Alfredo and Massi, a young kid, Argentinian kid. He's like 17 or 18 years old now. Tall guy.
21, yes, 20 years old, the small kid. Yeah,
He's actually, I mean, he's young, but he's pretty tall.
All right,
he's tall. Yeah, I played with him in the last match. All right, in the morning.
Now we've got 5 more of these to go. So as I said,
here?
if we
No.
lose
How much you
more
have?
than one
1.1.
player on this hand, they will be splitting places.
So
Okay?
I'll offer the dinner break stuff
2
again,
people,
but whatever. If you
1
want to
place.
rest.
3 people, 2
Yeah,
places.
let's see. I don't have the room today, so
Oh, you don't have the room?
so
5 people, 4 places.
I will let you know later
got
because I
5
have
more
a couple
need to
friends
go.
left, so it depends if they arrive.
So just stay tuned in the chat. Okay?
479
Congrats.
red.
Let's go all the way, baby.
We're in the money.
2 all-in players, and we
Thank
have
you.
a
Thank
whole
you very
field
much.
of players
Thank
that are all in the money. Congratulations, everyone. All right, that's the 2 players, because they're going to split. They're going to split the last place prize money. So they're going to get $7,500 apiece. We're all in the money. Give us just a few minutes to get everything back going. Thank you very much. All right, guys, it is money time here at the World Series of Poker main event. Guys, once you unfortunately get eliminated, I need you to remain in your seats until a payout runner comes and gets you. Once you get into our pre-payout program, you guys can do whatever you want to pick up your money until July 17th. But it's very important once you get to this aces crack that you remain in your seats until we grab you, okay? 48,000. Good luck, everybody. Dealers, please shuffle the deal.
We're in the money. The dynamic changes now where there's hardly any ICM. We're going to try to win. I'm going to try to win as many chips as possible. But now all the players are going to play normal ranges. Especially the short stacks are going to try to double up.
Hail 506!
He managed to survive the bubble. Standard open. A player goes all in. I have an obvious call if they all fold. Let's see if I can bust him. Good news. No luck in this all in that I lose.
How much?
It was about 8 blinds. I get a decent hand blind versus blind against the player on my left. I have a hand with which calling or raising are both valid options. It's a flop where theoretically I'm going to check very often. The turn. It's a jack, which is very good for my hand. I think I have to start betting. I bet 2/3 of the pot. It seems to be a reasonable sizing to me. Let's see the river. River is an ace, which completes the flush. It's a bad river. He has quite a few ace highs in his range, in addition to flushes. Here my hand has two options, either to check and call, or to bet small and decide if we get raised. I go for the option of betting very small. A blocking bet. If he raises, I will have to decide. He calls. Queen Jack winner. And I win another small pot.
Tío. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo vas? Bien, sí, majo, empezamos. Vamos de entrar en premios ahora.
¿Ahora?
No dura 2 horas y pico.
Vemos luego.
Está mojado. Vale, gracias.
Nada.
A new player arrives at the table. I don't have any information on him. Standard open. This player calls again, I can't see his face. A monotone flop. I decide to bet small against him. My hand has a bit of showdown value on the turn, but I can also keep betting to put pressure on him. But I think sometimes I win at showdown. I have to leave myself a few ace of diamonds in my checking range. A good river that gives me the flush. I have to bet for value now. I'm thinking about the sizing. I think I'm gonna go 2/3 of the pot. I hope he calls. He's thinking. Call. I want him to call. Another pot, I keep accumulating chips. I get a good hand in early position. This player seems to be thinking. He decides to go all in. It's about 12 or 13 blinds. If everyone folds, I'll have to call. I'm going to make sure of how much he has. Yeah, I have to call. Nice, yes, 8-8, one of the best possible scenarios. Let's see if it holds. Nice, one more card. I keep accumulating chips and busting my opponents, which is always good news.
Hey, I'm 506.
A new player at the table, on which I don't have relevant information either. The first level is over.
¿Dónde?
All players, you are in a 20-minute
¿Qué baño?
main event players.
¿En cuál?
20-minute break.
Espera, vamos, que hay tiempo, 20 minutos. Chill, chill.
¿Te sigue o no te sigue?
No lo sé, igual un poco, pero voy a ver, quiero ver la mano.
Oye.
Que vamos al baño. El de ayer, dices.
I like to see the hands played by my opponents to get information, especially when I don't know them. A picture of the stack so that everything be in order when I get back to be safe. And enjoy the break. There are less and less people left.
Hey, good luck.
You good?
Claro, te había doblado la tele, ¿no?
He abierto Radio
Sí, ahí al lado.
He abierto Radio Suite, me defiende en Big Line el barco, bueno, el RGS medio barco, y sale As-6-2, los diamantes, y tengo radio de trebles. CBT me paga, turnas, BT 80% de paga, River As, le hago pot y me pago con 4, triple check con... y así es como se me ha ido lo que me he doblado. La metes, ¿no? O sea, con radio, tío.
¿Tienes flash draw?
No.
Ah, no tienes
No, radio de trebles, es 2 diamantes en flop y luego ya...
Sin más.
Ya, tío, no sé, pensé que se tiraba de esas en turn, ¿sabes? Ya no contaba ni que llegaran al river, ¿sabes? Digo, te dan 6, 8, 9, 7.
¿Quién te la ha bajado?
Me ha bajado 4 y me he quedado
¿Quién?
ahí el que tiene el puesto 6, creo que es cuesta 6. Es un...
De la gorra, que pone ahí.
Eso.
Pues nada. Suerte.
Para una que inventamos, tío.
I still have several Spanish friends in the main event. This tournament creates a kind of camaraderie. The Spaniards who are making it through the different days. There are less and less of them.
All right, all players should be in your seats at this time. Players and dealers, 5,000, 10,000. Good luck, everybody. Dealers, please shove up and deal. If you're riding room, do not run. Black hoodie, green hat. Do not run.
Standard open. I get called by the other big stack at the table. And the big blind too. Early position against the blinds. Let's see if a 7 comes, it would be nice. There is no 7, but it's a good flop for my hand. I have to continue. I want to bet. A small sizing, it seems adequate to me. The small blind calls. And the big blind as well. A very bad turn. My hand loses a lot of value now. The big blind especially has a lot of flush draws that just got completed. He donk bets by betting on the turn. It's an obvious fold, there's nothing else I can do. Besides, with 7-7 I block a part of his bluffs, such as 7-5, 7-6. A pretty obvious fold. His donk bet on the turn was interesting. Perhaps he donk bets for value more often than he should. As a result, his checking range is weaker than it should be. Something to remember for future hands. Standard open on the button. The big blind defends a young player on whom I have no information. A flop that favors my range. Both the c-bet and the check are valid options. He checks, and here I have one of the hands I can start bluffing with. I don't have a lot of worse hands, and I can start putting pressure on the 9s and the 5s of his range. I decide to make a big bet of the size of the pot and to be polarized. He calls me relatively quickly with a lot of confidence. It looks like he has a clear call. A 6. The question here is whether I should continue my bluff or not. I perceive an average hand on his side. The speed and the gestures he made give me the impression he has an average hand. I have a good candidate to continue my bluff. If I check, I almost never win. The question is whether the bluff is profitable or not. I perceive some doubt in his gestures. I'm going to apply pressure. I'm going to put him all in. Twice the pot, I'm polarizing my range. Basically, I'm representing a very strong hand such as Queen 10, Jack 9, 8 7, King 6. These are hands that I'm likely to have in my range. And I decide to put maximum pressure on him. His range is going to suffer a lot against this bet. Even the strongest part of his range, which could be King X, has a very tough decision on this river. I still trust my red. I think I can get him to fold now. The chips are in the pot. I just need to keep my poker face and hope he folds. Hands like King King, Jack Jack. I can also play them this way from time to time. I have a bluff here, but it's a line that I'm not going to use that often as a bluff. It's pretty tough for him to find bluffs for me with this line. I opened on the button with a wide range. It's likely there are enough bluffs. Still, his range is going to suffer a lot, and I'm also going to value bet. His tournament depends on a bluff catch in the main event. It's never fun. I'm giving him time to think, but if he thinks for too long, I'll definitely call the clock.
Clock.
Floor 506.
Stop.
Clock.
Clock. C3? All right, you have 30 seconds start. I'll give you a 5-second countdown. Start now. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And in.
He decides to fold. Luckily for me, the last time I called the clock, I got called at the last second and I was value betting. This time I was bluffing and he folded at the last second.
Thank you.
In this tournament, everything is going well.
What?
I would call any other sizing, I think.
Could be good, bad or good for me.
And snap.
He's telling me he would have called any other sizing. Luckily I picked the right one. Queen 10 suited. I decide to call the raise of a player in early position.
Great. Let's go.
Call, no?
No, he said 20.
Yeah.
20 and this is 20.
Oh.
The dealer announced that I raised, but I only called the raise. A pot in position against the most competent player at the table. Good flop. If he bets, I'm gonna call. And if he checks, my hand can either check or bet. I check. The turn is good for my hand. He decides to check, and here, against his check, I have a clear bet. I can use a couple of sizings, a very big one or a more neutral one. I pick a big sizing for value. And he folds. I think using big sizings in the main event as a value or as a bluff makes your opponents think that you're very tough to play against, and that whenever they're going to play a hand against you, they're going to have to risk their tournament. It's a good feeling when your opponents perceive you this way. A small pocket pair, raise.
Raise 20.
It looks like the big blind wants to play. And he defends.
Two players. Yeah.
A flop that favors my range, on which I'm going to c-bet a lot. I can go for different sizings, but mainly small. I think this hand works well with a small bet. The majority of my range wants to bet small here. He calls me. Turn queen, which brings in a second flush draw. My hand is interesting. It can sometimes be used as a bluff. I can also check and decide on the river. Sometimes I can win. I will be putting a lot of pressure on the 7x, 5x if I bet on the flush draws. If I get called, I'm beating them. My range of value here wants to either overbet or check. I don't have a lot of bets that aren't big bets. If I have an ace with a good kicker here, I want to get maximum value and overbet most of the time. Therefore, with my bluffs, I'm also going to use big sizings. And in this case, it works out well. I keep accumulating. Everything is going well today. Everything is going great, a great tournament. I've had very few pots where I've lost a significant percentage of my stack. My reads are working out well and I'm hitting well the flops.
No complaints there, Adrian. The bubble? A mere formality. You immediately set the pace as soon as you were seated at your new table, brilliantly applying the strategy that has carried you so far: attack, attack, and attack again. This fourth day of the main event has only just begun, but already your stack is reaching new heights. With 1.5 million chips, which is over 150 blinds, you're better armed than ever to continue laying down the law. The best part is, we're not going to miss a beat of the action. We'll be back with you very soon for the next episode of Inside the Mind of a Pro.